July 17, 1959, 9:30 p.m. Three mysterious people entered the hospital room of the dying Billie Holiday on the fourth floor of Metropolitan Hospital. Nurse Martha Williams hadn't recorded these visitors' names because they didn't identify themselves. They weren't FBI agents, doctors, or family members. But as soon as Lady Day saw them, a sparkle appeared in her eyes, as if she was finally meeting people she had been waiting for a long time. After this mysterious 3-hour meeting, Billie Holiday would smile for the last time, and when she died at 3:10 a.m. the next morning, there would be a peaceful expression on her face. For 60 years, no one has known who these three visitors were or what they discussed with Lady Day. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to learn the secrets of this mysterious final night. Martha Williams was an experienced nurse who had been working at Metropolitan Hospital for 12 years that night. She had encountered terminal patients many times, but had never experienced what happened during Billie Holiday's last night. According to Martha's memories, she saw three people approaching in the hospital corridor at 9:15 p.m. These people didn't work at the hospital because Martha knew everyone. They also hadn't signed the visitor log because security guard Tom Jackson wasn't on duty that night. What first caught her attention was that all three people walked with very calm and determined steps. It was as if they knew exactly where they were going. They hadn't gotten lost in the hospital. They weren't confused. They headed straight for Billie Holiday's room. When Martha wanted to stop them, one of them said to her in a very soft voice, "Miss Holiday is expecting us." Martha believed these words because there was no tone of lying in that person's voice. The strangest detail was that all three visitors looked completely different. One was an elderly woman, another was a middle-aged man, and the third was a young woman. There was no physical similarity between them, as if they had come together by chance. But Martha could tell from the way they moved together that they had known each other for a long time. The elderly woman entered the room first. According to what Martha observed from the corridor, this woman was in her 70s, gray-haired, and very elegantly dressed. She wore a 1950s fashion-style dress and an old-fashioned hat, but her most striking feature was the reaction Billie Holiday showed when she saw her. An expression of deep recognition, not surprise, appeared on Lady Day's face. Martha saw the woman approach Billie and sit on the edge of the bed. They spoke in very low voices. Martha couldn't hear exactly what they said, but she could tell from their tones that it was an intimate conversation. During this conversation, which lasted about 20 minutes, the only thing Martha could hear was Billie occasionally saying, "Yes, I remember, and I'm sorry." The most surprising moment was when the elderly woman reached out and kissed Billie on the forehead. This kiss seemed like a farewell kiss, but it could also have been a forgiveness kiss. When the elderly woman left the room, her eyes were teary, but she was also at peace. When she looked at Martha, she nodded slightly and said, "Thank you, nurse. You took very good care of her." The second visitor was a well-groomed man in his 50s. Martha thought he looked like a businessman because he wore an expensive suit and was confident. But this man's approach to Billie was very different. When entering the room, he hesitated as if he was about to have a difficult conversation he had been postponing for a long time. This man's conversation with Billie lasted about half an hour, and from what Martha could hear, the tone of the conversation was tense at first. The man was constantly apologizing, and Billie's responses were cold at first. But gradually the atmosphere softened, and Martha saw both of them smiling. At the end of the conversation, the man kissed Billie's hand and made a very deep bow, as if he was saying goodbye to a... The most interesting detail was the small package the man left for Billie when leaving the room. Martha wondered what this package was but didn't dare to ask. When the man left, he said to Martha, she was a great artist, but an even greater person. The use of past tense in these words affected Martha because Billie hadn't died yet. The last visitor was a very beautiful young woman in her late 20s. Martha noticed that she physically resembled Billie Holiday. The same bone structure, the same eye shape, even the same hand movement. This resemblance was so striking that Martha thought this might be Billie's secret daughter, but she knew Billie Holiday had never had children. The young woman's conversation with Billie was the longest, lasting about an hour. Martha could see that very emotional moments were experienced between them. Both were crying, but these seemed like tears of happiness. The young woman constantly held Billie's hands, as if trying to comfort her. At the most emotional moment of the conversation, Martha heard the young woman sing a song to Billie. The song was "God Bless the Child," but it was sung in a very different style. It was as if it wasn't Billie's own version, but someone else's interpretation. Billie listened to this song with her eyes closed and had deep peace on her face. The strangest thing Martha noticed was that all three visitors asked Billie the same question. Each one asked, "Do you forgive me?" And Billie gave each one the answer, "Of course, I forgive all of you." This common forgiveness ritual was as if Billie Holiday was laying down a burden she had carried her whole life on her last night. Even more interesting was that the three visitors never spoke to each other. When they met in the corridor, they didn't greet each other or show signs of acquaintance. It was as if only Billie Holiday was their common point, and beyond her, there was no connection between them. After each shared their secret, they quietly left the hospital. The most surprising detail was the change in Billie Holiday's condition after the three visits. Lady Day, who had been in pain and restless all day, had completely calmed down after the last visitor left. It was as if she had been freed from a heavy burden she had been carrying for a long time. Martha could never forget her peace that night. During Billie Holiday's time in the hospital, FBI agents were also closely monitoring her. Agent Robert Morrison and his team were keeping watch in the hospital lobby because they wanted to know who Lady Day met with before her death. According to Morrison's reports, they saw three mysterious visitors that night, but couldn't identify them. When FBI agents tried to stop or question these people, intervention came from hospital security. Hospital Director James Patterson told the FBI agents that terminal patient visits were sacred and couldn't be interfered with. This situation surprised the FBI because hospitals usually cooperated with them. Even stranger was that the hospital security cameras weren't working that night. Although it was said to be due to technical failure, the FBI was suspicious of this situation. According to Morrison's notes, it was as if someone wanted these visits not to be recorded. Such an organized operation couldn't be a coincidence. The FBI later tried to learn the visitors' identities by questioning hospital staff, but no one knew anything. Only nurse Martha Williams had seen them, and she could only describe their physical characteristics. There were no names, addresses, or identification information. Billie Holiday's last husband, Louis McKay, wasn't at the hospital that night. After fighting with Billie, he had gone home and said he would return to the hospital in the morning. But when he came the next morning, what he learned from Martha Williams about the previous night's visitors shocked him. Louis had no knowledge of any visitors. Billie hadn't mentioned such people to him. The young female visitor especially surprised Louis because he didn't know Billie had such a relative. When he asked, "Who could it be?" Martha couldn't answer either. The strangest thing was the three letters Louis found when collecting Billie's personal belongings. These letters came from the previous night's visitors, and all were old dated. The oldest was from 1935, and the newest was from 19. The contents of the letters were very personal, and Louis didn't dare to read them. Louis had to turn these letters over to the FBI, but after the agents examined them, they said nothing important was found. But Louis noticed the expression on the FBI agents' faces. They were also surprised. It was as if the information in the letters was very different from what they expected. In research conducted in the 1980s, the identity of the elderly woman visitor that night was clarified. This woman was Olivia Mills, Florence Mills's sister. Olivia was a very famous jazz singer in Harlem in the 1920s and was one of Billie Holiday's mentor figures. There had been a big fight between Olivia Mills and Billie Holiday in the 1940s. The reason for this fight was a man, Earl Fatha. Both were in love with Hines, and this love competition ended their friendship. Olivia accused Billie of being a man-stealing woman and didn't speak to her for 20 years. The reason Olivia came that last night was to ask for forgiveness. Earl Hines had died in 1958, and this death showed Olivia how meaningless her 20 years of anger had been. Olivia had come to the hospital to apologize to Billie and rebuild their old friendship. The identity of the second visitor, the middle-aged man, was even more surprising. This person was John Hammond Jr., son of music producer John Hammond, but his relationship with Billie wasn't professional, but much more personal. Hammond Jr. had a secret relationship with Billie Holiday in the 1940s. This relationship was kept secret for two reasons. Hammond Jr. was married, and there was a racial difference between him and Billie. In 1940s America, such a relationship could be very dangerous for both the Hammond family and Billie. Their relationship lasted about 2 years and ended when Hammond Jr.'s wife became pregnant. The reason Hammond Jr. came that night was to share a secret he had never been able to tell Billie. In 1942, Billie had become pregnant, but didn't give birth. Hammond Jr. had paid for her abortion, but this situation deeply saddened both of them. This secret had remained between them for 17 years. The biggest shock was the identity of the young female visitor. This woman was Billie Holiday's sister Clara Holiday, whom no one knew existed. Clara was a child born from Billie's mother, Sadie Harris's second marriage, and had grown up away from Baltimore, in Philadelphia. Sadie Harris had remarried when Billie was young, but kept this marriage secret. Clara was born in 1938, but Sadie registered her with a different surname. As Clara grew up, she knew her sister Billie Holiday was famous, but had never met her. The reason Clara came that night was to fulfill what was written in the letter her mother gave her before her death. Sadie had written a letter to Clara, informing her that Billie was terminally ill, but had instructed that this letter should only be given to Clara just before Billie's death. The diary found in Olivia Mills's house after her death in 1985 illuminated the details of that night. Olivia had been writing about this night for years, and the records in her diary were surprising. In her entry dated July 17, 1959, she wrote, "Today I said goodbye to Billie. After 20 years, looking at her, I didn't see the strong, rebellious Billie from the old days, but a tired, sick woman seeking peace. When I apologized to her about Earl, she said, 'Olivia, love multiplies when shared, diminishes when divided.' How right she was." John Hammond Jr. personal archives contain detailed notes about that night. In his memoirs written in the 1970s, Hammond explained the details of his relationship with Billie. According to Hammond's memoirs, that last night Billie told him she forgave him and even said, "If we had had a child, you would have lived a different life. My memories with you are beautiful, John." The most meaningful moment was the contents of the package Hammond brought to Billie. The package contained love letters he had written to Billie in the 1940s, but had never been able to give her 17 years later. "I gave her those letters. She read them and smiled." Clara Holiday's story was perhaps the most emotional part of the night. In interviews Clara gave in the 1990s, she told how she prepared for that night. The letter she received from her mother didn't just tell her that Billie was sick, but also wrote what she should tell her. The song Clara sang to Billie that night wasn't coincidental. Her mother had taught her "God bless the child" as a child. "Mother always said to me, 'This is a song I learned from your sister.' I knew I would sing this song when I met my sister." The most emotional moment was when Clara conveyed her mother's last words to Billie. "Mother said when she was dying, 'Both my daughters are gifts from the God of music. I had to separate them, but they will always be together in their hearts.'" Billie cried a lot when she heard this. When Martha Williams went to Billie Holiday after the three visitors, she saw a dramatic change in Lady Day's condition. Billie told Martha, "Tonight was a very special night. People I had been waiting for a long time came. I apologized, I was forgiven. Now I can go in peace." Before sleeping that night, Billie sang one last song. It was Amazing Grace, but she sang it in a very different style. Martha had never heard this version before. It was as if Billie was rewriting this song for her own life. July 18, 1959. When Billie Holiday took her last breath, there was unprecedented peace on her face. Martha Williams had encountered many terminal patients, but had never seen such a peaceful death. It was as if Billie had gone to sleep. The most surprising detail was Billie's last word. Martha heard her whisper, thank you all," but there was only Martha in the room. Billie seemed to be talking to invisible people. After Billie's death, the autopsy revealed an unexpected detail in her body. There were no stress signs in her heart muscles. Normally, in such severe illnesses, the heart is under great stress, but Billie's heart seemed calm. It was as if she knew death was coming and was prepared for it. Years later, research revealed that the three visitors shared a common past. All of them were people who played important roles in Billie Holiday's life in the 1940s, and all of them had fallen out with her. This common past showed that that night wasn't a coincidence. The three people had come in a coordinated manner and given Billie a chance to make peace with her past.